All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Experience This season number three, show eight. We've got a special guest. All of our guests are special, right? Jake Zufelt from Weldwood Marketing, a marketing company in our industry that most of you are not aware of, but I'm guessing you will be more aware of soon. And of course, I'm here with my co-host Christian Watts from Magpie. We miss you, Lori. Lori is out already in Spain preparing for arrival of Valencia with her vacation. I think she was in Barcelona last I heard. But why don't we go ahead and get started? Christian, give us a quick intro and say hello, and let's go from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, hey guys, Christian, Magpie. I started listening to the whole, we've got a great guest today, and I've been looking forward to meet you. And I listened to another podcast that I've been a guest on, and then I start judging those intros versus me, and it starts to make me sometimes feel bad because I think the last one was Dan Christian, and he's like, I've been dying to meet you for years, and you're one of the best guests we've ever had. And I'm like, I don't think he said that to me. So you got to be careful with that stuff, right? But Jake, what's your response to that?
Special's the nicest thing I've been called this week. I've been called a lot of names this week. Special wasn't one of them, so
You're special,
I
Jake.
appreciate
All
it.
right, tell us
Thank
tell
you,
us who you
guys.
are. Tell us what you do and why are you on the show.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here, guys. Like I said before we started recording, I've listened to, a number of your guys' episodes. Love the energy you have here. Bruce and I have talked a number of times. I'll have one of my staff, our director of digital marketing, will be at Arrival in Valencia, and then I was there in San Diego, and I'll be there in Washington, D.C. So excited about that.
Viewers note, sorry, this show won't land until after Valencia, most likely. Well, we'll see. Well,
We'll
Valencia's a
see.
ways away still.
Yeah.
So we'll see when we can drop the
Fantastic.
show. Yeah. But anyway, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm weird, guys. That's really how I introduce myself. I come from a really strange background, born and raised in Alaska, so very familiar with the travel industry just by nature. But I've done everything from worked at lawyers' offices to skate shops to coffee shops to all kinds of stuff like that. And then this is a couple of years story, but I spent a decade as a pastor. Wasn't a very good pastor. I just liked Jesus enough that kept me around. So I was playing in bar bands on Saturday night, and then I was playing in church on Sunday. So that's a whole different conversation. That's a separate podcast, Bruce, on that one. But I got into marketing because really I saw this gaping hole in the world of marketing of just honesty and transparency and people just calling stuff as it is. And so when I dove into digital marketing, it took off like a rocket because of really weird stuff. Like I was actually sending reports when things weren't going well. Just very basic human level communication. And so years ago, when I started Welded Marketing, we started with this mantra of marketing for humans, which is this idea that I am a person with a family and kids and a house I'm renovating and a dog in my office, working with business owners who are human beings and have stuff that comes up in life who are looking for people to do work with. So as I started developing that, I started developing kind of this industry recognition for just calling shit out and led me to write a book called Digital Marketing Sucks, a practical guide for frustrated business owners. And just ripped the corporate veil off of this idea that you have to be so stuffy in your marketing. And if you go to Weldwood Marketing's website, you'll see our entire branding is 1950s monster comics. And oftentimes when I'm speaking nationally, I've got topics like digital marketing sucks, don't do dumb shit, how to avoid your marketing mistakes, don't be a Bigfoot business, how to make sure that you're discoverable. So we're really trying to reshape the conversation into just a very human level in a very, very tech heavy world. So that's something that's kind of a little bit different to us. When we are at a conference. We just did a dental conference. I mean, our booth stood out like a missing tooth at this dental conference because there's a giant monster attacking a Katy Perry like character there who just went into space. And that's really what we try to be about. We're a very just fun organization to hang out with. My staff is pretty much unhinged. I only hire weird people like me, so that makes it a lot of fun.
First time I saw your website, Jake, I was like, whoa, this is different. I mean, so it's very clearly something different that you're doing.
I have to
But
tell
okay,
people we're good at what we do, but we're not serious people. That's what I have to, it's usually how I introduce ourselves. So
right.
yeah.
Okay, so that's who you are, but you're a lot more in your firm. How many people work at Weldwood?
Got about 20 people on staff. And it's constantly changing. I just started a publishing company. When I wrote my book a couple years ago, the general manager of my publishing company reached out to me in January and said, "Hey, we had a great time writing your book. I think you should start a publishing company." Great, that sounds awesome. Then last week, somebody said, "Hey, you need to start a marketing institute." So I'm looking at buying a building next week and starting a formalized marketing training, essentially trade school for marketers. So this isn't just about marketing. This is again, and it's about the human experience, which Bruce, I think is one of the reasons why you and I hit it off so well is just in your guys' industry. You're selling experiences, right? You're selling these memories. And I think we lose that sometimes, not just in digital marketing, but in business in general. We get stuck on the bottom line.
So what do you mean by digital marketing sucks? So if digital marketing sucks, what are you doing to fix it?
It's constantly changing. I have a lot of high school kids that come to me and say, "Hey, I want to go study marketing. I want to do what you do," right? They see me working from a beach in Hawaii and they're like, "Man, I wanted your job," right? I got staff in Nicaragua, I traveled to Nicaragua. And I say, "Yeah, I would love for you to go get a 4-year degree. I got a 4-year degree in English communications, which means I don't actually know anything, but I can communicate really clearly how little I know, which is great." And I tell them, I say, "Look, this industry just moves way too damn fast." And so when you have the average business owner, the average, tour operator or dentist or escape room owner, whatever you are, this industry is moving so fast. Not just, I mean, this is pre-AI becoming just commonplace is that Google could change something in their algorithm and immediately it would affect your business at its bottom line. Or Meta would adjust something. The Meta Plus that they're adding to advertisements and they're adding like crappy music to your advertisements. That's not the stuff that business owners are sitting down and policing all of the time. And so digital marketing sucks in a lot of the ways that it's entirely necessary, right? It's the can't you can't live with it, you can't live without it. But it's also not magic, it's logistics. And when you start adding another to-do list of logistics to somebody's company, they just get frustrated. And so I had a business coach years ago who just had me write what he calls the oh shit list. And I had an open piece of paper sitting on my desk. And anytime I said oh shit, I had to write down what I was doing. And it turned into a couple positions here at Weldwood Marketing where I hired people to literally cover my oh shit list. And I've asked clients to do this as well. I go, what are the things in your business you don't like doing? And digital marketing keeps showing up over and over. And so when I started presenting this idea of digital marketing sucks, what was crazy is how many digital marketers came out to me and they said, "Hey, where do I get that shirt?" So when professionals in your industry agree that this is a really difficult, miserable, and constantly changing industry, that should cause pause for a couple business owners that are trying to do this themselves.
Okay,
Yeah,
that last sentence, let me just say this, and then Chris and I definitely is maybe what I think is your point. Digital marketing sucks. Don't do it yourself unless you're really qualified. Give it to a professional. Is that where you're
That's
going with
that's
this?
some of it. I mean, certainly that's part of it. I outsource a lot. We don't do our bookkeeping, we don't do our taxes, we don't do our HR internally. In right now in business, it's not about just having the right people. It's about having the right people in the right positions. And businesses that are trying to scale, and I don't care what industry it is, you can have the right person in the wrong position. That's a problem. You can have the wrong person in the right position. That's a problem. Wrong person, wrong position doesn't need to be fired immediately, right? But having the right people in the right positions, that's the way you're going to survive, right? We just will look at the economic overview we're dealing with right now at all. We have a multi location apparel printing companies that we're working with. Okay. As soon as tariffs hit, this is recorded here in mid to late April. As soon as tariffs hit, we had to start negotiating contracts on behalf of our clients to be able to lock in pricing so that they could survive. right? So it wasn't just, oh, we need to have help at our business. It was right people, right positions. When we do business consulting for clients, we've had to suggest that they let people go regularly. I mean, it's that level of complexity right now in just making your business survive. So the idea of having the wrong person in the wrong position isn't even a question, which is where we're saying, hey, partnerships, outsourcing, bringing in third parties to manage departments in your company, it's almost non-negotiable now. That's a whole nother topic, guys. I just opened up a door, didn't
Yeah.
Yeah.
I?
So yeah, I find it interesting because I'm in the Bay Area, right, in San Francisco area, and I always one of my problems is I just think everything's like the Bay Area, and everyone's trying to disrupt, and everyone's trying to get on the latest fads, and then you kind of realize pretty soon that everyone's not doing that. This is a bubble. So, and I get caught up in that because I enjoy the change, but I've got to say recently in the last probably few weeks because I do nothing but AI pretty much, it's impossible to keep up with what's going on. And you don't have to keep up with the latest, but things are happening to you, right? Things are gonna, well, they're happening to you on a political level now, clearly, but they're happening to us on a digital marketing level as well. This stuff's moving so quickly. So yes, it's hard to keep up. Yes, it's human to human, but you say that at the same time that we're obviously going less human to human on the marketing front. And potentially we're going to have this jump where you're just talking to my agent, which is problematic and probably we don't love it. But I don't want to look at ads all day. But my agent is happy to look at ads all day. And then people will stop showing my agent ads because my agent's just going to say, I'm just scrolling right past that. So your human to human is great, but we're gonna have fewer opportunities to speak to humans, I assume, going forwards.
This is, oh man, we're opening up so many cans here this morning.
Go, go, go. Come on. It's
Let's
all
go, go,
right.
go. I
Yeah.
think that this is what's going to set local businesses apart. And I buy online a lot. I buy directly from advertisements because I know how it works and I know that I want to be retargeted with that product again so I don't have to think about it. However, when I get on a call with someone and they go, am I going to be able to talk to you? It's one of the biggest selling points is, yeah, you're going to be able to literally call me. And they're like, great, I don't want a phone tree. I don't want an AI chat bot. I don't want any of that stuff. I just want to be able to talk to you. And that I don't know that AI is ready yet to replace the human experience. I think that there's a lot of conversation about what that's going to look like. But anytime anyone catches wind that I'm talking to, a robot who's wearing a polo shirt, I think that there comes with a lot of pause. And you're seeing this still, even in the younger generations. You're seeing Generation Z not having smartphones is a huge trend. So you're almost seeing this pendulum, right? We always have this, this thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, and you're starting to see this pendulum that's swinging pretty heavily here. And I'm really curious. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with the younger generations if they're going to sort of rebel to this idea that AI is going to be the better and more efficient option. Now we're seeing this, right? I'm kind of a funny one, right? I'm in my late 30s, but I grew up in Alaska, which means I'm 15 years behind everyone in thought process because we are our own isolated little country up there. So I still have this idea of like, no, I need to make this thing as efficient as possible just as a business person. And now you're seeing these younger professionals come to the workplace and they're trying to humanize the workplace in the same way it's being requested of the older generation. It's a very, very interesting transition right now where you have four generations actively at work in the workplace for the first time in history. Talk about generational gaps in communication. When you try to get a 20 something to sell something to someone in their 80s, holy moly, it's like listening to a bilingual conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I went
I
to
just
a
want to, Christian, if I
go
could
ahead,
ask you a
Bruce.
question. Sorry. You're obviously so bullish on AI agents and have been before they became a thing, really. You kept talking about how they were going to come out, and sure enough, they're here. And you just were talking about them. And I think in a B2C world, absolutely, right? And what Jake replied with was a B2B sales situation, do you think AI agents are going to be involved in B2B?
I think, yeah, well, yeah, absolutely they will. They'll probably started there first. I mean, they're there now, right? Somewhat. Um, but
Well, maybe I
it,
just got to. What do you mean
I
they're there now? I mean in like a human like I want to work with you. I want to be your client, but I want to be able to call you like
well,
Jake said.
yeah, I kind of separate it, right? So we're in the experiences industry. I think we're somewhat shielded from this because people want to be in the experience, and that's probably a need to have a more human experience, and that's good. But when I'm talking to Jake or I'm talking to another business, I'm just trying to get something done. And my thought is not, hey, I'd love to wake up today and spend all day talking to Jake about marketing. If I'm professional, I'm trying to actually bypass Jake and just get what he's going to do to my business, right? And then we'll have a beer after work. It'd be fantastic. So it's a means to an end. So where there's a means to an end and the agent comes along and says, listen, I could do all of this for you. Do you want me just to take it off your hands? We more and more we start to say, yes, go for it. And then there's less and less need for me to speak to that human if my agent is grabbing what it needs from Jake and delivering it to me. So that's the natural progression of things. Yeah, you can't go from here to there in 2 years and everyone's um doesn't care about face to face. This is going to take us decades to get away from the human to human. But that's the optimal world just from the business point of view, from the spreadsheet point of view, to bypass the humans because we're just compressing data back and forth and we're not very good at it.
No, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And I think that the big overarching theme here to me is that we're not replacing the need for humans. We are shifting the way in which people are interacting with humans. That's a little bit different. Is that you're still going to need someone, I think, anyways. And this is how we manage things within Weldwood and how we manage it within my publishing company and things like that. We have handoffs to where we let automation run wild. We let it go and it take care of all the menial tasks, and then we have a check-in point for the human experience. Because frankly, and I say this a lot with coaching my kids in sports, okay? They're rarely going to remember what I say on the soccer field and the baseball field or whatever, but they're going to remember how they felt in interacting in that experience. And that's something that I think we're going to have a really hard time replacing with AI or with marketing or whatever it is. And people are so unwillingly affected by just how quick they make a decision. They don't realize that. So, for example, with your website, and this is a big conversation we've had because we build hundreds of websites. We're building a website right now for the New York Fishing Guide Association. We're also building a website for the Fort Collins Symphony. Okay, two very different things. However, it still remains true. You got less than 5 seconds to keep somebody's attention as soon as they get there. Also, these AI summaries that you're finding on Google and things like that, you're still having to provide some basis for them to draw information from. Okay, so there's still that technical side of it. But this is where we're dying on this mountain right now. Is going your business foundation structure and your organic networking and communication. So literally we got, a staff member flying in to sit down with Hilton and shake their hand creating a deal for one of our clients. And our client actually said to him, "Where do I write the review? Because this absolutely exceeded all the expectations that we had." So could we have done some sort of automated outreach and cold emailing and all that kind of stuff? Yeah, we absolutely could have. But I live in rural Oregon, and the handshake still means something here. And when you're getting done, in Alaska with your hunting trip or your fishing trip or whatever, the picture you take with your family is still the thing that gets hung on the wall. So as much as I sit in front of a computer all day, there's still that aspirational identity that's fueling all the decisions that we're making, not just at Weldwood, but as a family, as we're planning something, right? We're trying to plan our Christian, you said you have family up in the Pacific Northwest. You're aware of just the drab nature of the winters up here. I mean, just gray as can be, right? My kids who are young will still say, "Dad, I remember getting this shave ice on this island in Hawaii. And by the way, Dad, here's the picture." So what we do is try to put those aspirational identities, whether it's for our family, whether it's for our clients or for my company, in a visible location and go, man, how do we reverse engineer that feeling? And that is the thing that's guiding our decisions when we're utilizing AI, automation, and all of our digital technology is that simple human experience that's being remembered fondly. How do you make that reproducible? So that has to become our guide in all of this, or else we get lost in all the logistics. And like you said, the bubble. I live in a bubble too, Christian. I get it.
Did
We're always
did you
trying to
guys
push so hard.
did you guys watch the last series of Black Mirror yet? With the
No,
memories and yeah, you got
I
to watch that.
haven't. And you're like the third person that's referenced it. So
Not a great season overall, but I love all the memory ones. I'm just fascinated by that
hot
space of.
take by Christian on his media review right here. Not a great season.
I didn't think the last one was as well, but all of that stuff with memory, right? Because you probably remember the old one with when they got the chip in their ear and they've recorded their whole life and they can go back and look at certain pieces of it and that which is you think I'm digressing here and I definitely am, but it's part of experience, right? Experiencing is remembering. It's the same process in your brain, and that's what we're here to do is create memories in a lot of ways.
We have a partnership with a photographer here locally, and one of the packages she sells is going in and taking pictures of people in their workplace. Because we're in a logging community in Oregon. And one of the things she said is how many of your grandparents have photos of them at work where they spent 30 to 40 years in their employment, and there's maybe one or two photos of them there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it is again this sort of reverse engineering, like how do we do that with memory? So it's odd living in digital space like this. I'm on my phone all day. I was at a business expo yesterday, and it was also like high school kids came in and asked us questions. Say, "What's your cell phone policy?" And I said, "My staff is required to be on it at all times."
Yeah, I went to a conference. I don't know how long ago, maybe 10 years, maybe 15. It was when the Malaysia Airlines lost two flights that year. When was that? 15 years ago? Anyway, it was a marketing conference in New York. First speaker of the day, he was brilliant. He was a young kid, English kid. And it was one of those things everyone puts their phone down to listen, which is a big thing in a conference these days. And he spoke for an hour. It was just brilliant, just marketing content. They did some cool social stuff. I caught his team in the coffee break right afterwards, and I just said to his team, "Hey, that was brilliant, really enjoyed it." And then this guy walks up to me and said, "Hey, that was really good presentation." Then this older guy walks up with a suit. This is in New York City. Older guy walks up with a suit, and he walks up and says, "I'm from like Prudential or something, one of these huge insurance, $100 billion companies." Guy walks up and says, "How can I get you guys into our company to do like a pitch to maybe do some of this social stuff you've been talking about?" And the guys are like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, just hit us up on LinkedIn." And the guy's like, "Well, have you got a card or something?" And they're all like fumbling about. Nobody's got a card. And he's like, "Yeah, how will we do this?" And he said, "Yeah, just shoot us an email or something." I'm like, "Guys, this guy's got a checkbook worth millions of dollars. Get his card, get his phone number, scribble down something, do it." And I kind of got them together for the next sort of 5 minutes and got them talking. I'm like, these kids, they could do this presentation, they could do this digital stuff all day. But when the human walks in from the old stodgy insurance company and has to have a face to face, they weren't capable of selling it. So,
One of my
but
big pet peeves is talking with real estate agents, and when someone asks how to get a hold of them, and they give them four different call to actions. And
right,
I see this in the travel space as well. We'll click here to talk to our chat bot, or click here to fill out a form, or click here. Plain and simple, confused customers don't convert.
yeah,
If they don't know how to interact with you, and again, this goes back to the human experience here, that the automation is designed to make your life easier. The digital side of your business is your digital storefront. No one is really walking into your travel experience into I keep using escape rooms because we work with dozens and dozens and dozens of immersive experience companies. People aren't walking in there without checking out online. And so if you are making it confusing on how to be involved there, they're simply going to your competitor until they find clarity. And you're seeing this everywhere. I don't care if it's politics, if it's business, if it's education, people are moving toward clarity, even if clarity isn't 100% accurate. even if the plan they're giving isn't perfect, they at least know what the expectation is. And part of that is that our brains are just being bombarded with information constantly. And so confused customers don't convert. Marketing isn't just some vibe here, right? It's not like, well, I'm getting a good feeling about it. People are actually using their brains. It's a sense-making device. They actually burn calories in your brain having to think. And so the less that someone has to think, the more likely they are to buy into it.
But
It's
this
That's
week
my
you could have
favorite. That's my.
you
I
could have
gotta
said,
finish my last bit of my story, Bruce. 1 second.
yeah,
Anyway, this guy was. I don't know if you know him, but Stephen Bartlett, who's now a podcaster, and he's on the Dragons Den in the UK.
Mhm.
Everyone in the UK knows him. One of the probably
Oh,
the
I know who
top
he is.
10 most famous people in the UK. That's what he ended up being. But what you just said is
I
data
couldn't blame
compression,
you.
which is my favorite subject. But Bruce, I'll hand over to you.
no, go. I want to hear about your favorite
I
subject. I
want to
haven't
hear
heard about
about
data
data
compression
compression.
from
Let's
you.
go.
Go
Well, I
for
think
it.
I'd probably save it from you guys because it gets a bit deep. But this is I did a video on this on the beach recently. But this is what our brains thrive on is compressing data because we're inundated with data. We always have been. There's a lot more now, but we used to have data running through the forest looking out for saber-tooth tigers, right? That's what we just have to look for the next saber-tooth tiger and find some food to eat. That's all we think about. So our brains are trained to forget the normal boring stuff that happens because we need to save brain power for the saber-tooth tiger, which is all that really matters. So we get real pleasure out of compressing data, out of taking multiple threads and compressing them down to one. That's why the cliffhanger at the end of the show we can't deal with. We have to watch the next week because they just left four threads open, and our brains have to get that down to one. We have to know who shot JR. Maybe I'm dating myself here,
Oh
but
no, I know the reference. I know
we
Dallas.
have to get to that point. We can't stand all these open threads because we had such pleasure out of taking this complicated 45-minute presentation and getting three takeaways. I'm like, oh, finally, I can just put that into a nice, tidy box. We have to know the final score of the football match. We have to compress all this stuff so our brain can free up, which is exactly what you just said, Jake, right? You've got this complex, I don't understand, it's fuzzy, it's giving me too much to think about. I need to get it into a compartment. And our brains love that.
All right, so take that point and let's wrap it into travel experiences, destination experiences. What could companies do to take that data and compress it in a way that helps someone convert?
People are scanners, they're not readers.
Say
If
again?
people are scanners, they're
Yeah.
not readers.
Yeah.
So one of
Well,
the
that's why
biggest,
video is so successful.
well, and
Yeah.
one of the biggest mistakes that I see with people's websites is they're trying to provide every bit of information. Like I said, we built 200 websites in the last year, and people get obsessed with making sure that they've got their product list and all of the deliverables. Now, those are wildly important, to be clear, because that's part of the expectation setting. However, when someone goes to a website or they're looking at a social media feed or whatever, they're really looking for three things. They're looking for headers, they're looking for media, and they're looking for calls to action. That's it. And I can save anyone that's listening $3.5 million worth of data and tell you that women ages 35 to 55 are most likely to engage with any sort of booking-based company. Why? Well, in marketing, we have to generalize. And typically, that's going to be the planner for families, for companies, for organizations, for friend groups, is very possibly a woman ages 35 to 55. So when I build a website for somebody, or one of my staff builds a website for somebody and they have a very strong opinion about the layout or something, I go, hey, I don't know how to tell you this. I don't actually care about your opinion. I want you to run this by someone who is your ideal client, which is probably a woman ages 35 to 55, and get their feedback on it. I'm allergic to complexity. I have too much stuff going on. I got three kids and three businesses. I drink way too much espresso. I got coffee plants tattooed all the way up my shoulder. That's how I survive throughout the day. So when you're talking about data compression, I'm like, Christian, you're preaching to the choir, man. How do I get data as quick as possible? Okay. When you're talking about the travel industry, I think that the other part of this is that clarity and trust. People work with people they know, like, and trust. So you got to give them that awareness. You got to make it clear. You got to make it trustworthy. So client reviews is a big part of this, but also you're building trust with people the moment that they interact with you. And it's subconscious and it's innate. It's all these different things. So going to them and saying, "Hey, we want your money now," when they haven't had the time to build trust and understand the clarity side of it, it's literally that simple. I just don't think that with all the technology that we're going to have, that we're going to change the way that people operate at that basic level. Now, I could be wrong. I'm not a sociologist. I'm not a psychologist, right? I just think that when we get down to some of this, it goes back to the basics. It just goes back to the basics. Am I positioned so people can find me? Do I have a very solid outreach plan, whether that's organic, whether that's referrals, whether that's paid advertisements, whether that's print advertisements, God forbid, whether that's billboards, which is just one of the weirdest things to me that people are still spending $15,000 on something they can't get data from. That's a whole talking point. But when it comes down to this with travel, it really comes down to, am I making myself available? Whether that's to humans or it is to AI. Okay, we rank number one for Google Ads in Eugene, Oregon. Yay, congratulations, us in 2020. Now we're actually one of the three suggested companies in the AI summary. Now that's what I'm excited about. Okay, we're also getting referrals from clients. So you have to have some sort of three source strategy where you're getting intake and then you're always working on a fourth. Always working on a fourth. That goes back to just the foundations of marketing. And this is really why I've become this weird anti-marketer in the space, is that I'm going here, sitting down with people and getting like, man, AI, love it, love it, love it, love it. But I had an 80 something year old just write a check for $350,000 to two women that want to open a haunted house. Okay, do you think he cares about AI? No, not really. He wanted to create a human experience in Arkansas. And he handed a check for $350,000 to two grandmothers that wanted to start a haunted house. Okay, that's those kind of anecdotes that get me fired up and go like, man, some things just aren't changing.
Yeah, those things are going to stick with us for a while. I think of that a lot when I travel, especially to like a developing country, and you look around and you're like, AI is
Absolutely.
not touching this at all for a long time. Just back to, I just want to bring an arrival story in, Bruce. But I was talking to Evan Reese, who um, now is doing consulting and he's got a startup. He talks about pricing. He does workshops at Arrival, and I was talking to him actually outside a workshop. He was going in to do a pricing one. I was going to go into do an AI one, and I brought up data compression because he likes this kind of stuff. And he said, "Listen, your product page is all about data compression. The buy now button is it everything on your website is to get everyone to compress all that data so that they end up thinking the buy now button is the place to go. So it's
100%.
answering all the questions, right? It's like, oh my God, is this going to be too long? Are my kids going to enjoy this? What if it rains? Is it going to be fun? Am I going to see Alcatraz? All these things. And then you've compressed all of that and you think, oh, there's nothing left. I got no more questions. Buy now. So he looks at that as a data compression,
I
which I
love
thought
it.
was an interesting way to,
We call it the "Will you marry me" button.
right?
Is that after years of dating, you ask that question, "Will you marry me?" And then I think one of the big misses also within travel, immersive experience, with really like throughput entertainment is really what it is, right? It's throughput entertainment. Is the transitional call to action as well. Is okay, you're not ready to buy now, you're not ready to get married yet. There's got to be some sort of transitional call to action that is essentially the like, "Will you go on another date with me" button. And
Right.
anytime that that experience doesn't feel human, don't be shocked when people ghost you like a bad Tinder date. If they think that you are not really having their best interest in mind, even on a digital screen, they're still going to end up making a decision to go somewhere else or just not book at all. And that to me is one of the biggest mistakes that we're seeing, is that people had to get over this fear. And I met with hundreds of high school students yesterday. I'm not super confident in the social abilities of high school students right now to go have conversations about business. We'll just put it lightly. However, they still get a read on it. They still have this innate thing of, does this person have my best interest in mind or not? And that happens in the digital space still. It still comes back to, am I going to take care of somebody? Can they trust me with my money, my family, my friends, my business, and my experiences?
Talk about that. That's the will you date me question that you're talking about. In my mind, that's like, will you give me your email and permission to email you? Um, and that involves that level of trust. I'm not doing that unless I trust you that you're not going to spam me. I trust you that you're going to send me good shit. Gets back to you saying, I don't mind being retargeted by companies that I like. I'm the same. Like, go ahead and retarget me because I might want to buy something from you. But so what are you talking about on that dating point? So the will you marry me point is buy now. Will you date me point? Does that give me your email and permission to email you, or you have other things you're talking about?
I usually have a couple steps before that. I think that before you're doing some sort of mutual deposit in the relationship, which is what that is. It's just like, hey, I need to give you more information. Like, watch this video, read this quick thing, download this guide, right? If I'm planning on taking my whole family to Nicaragua, I have three staff in Nicaragua, very good friends of mine that I've gone to visit. When you hear Nicaragua, some people still jump back to like some of the political upheaval that they dealt with, right?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
telling you right now, if you guys want to go to an incredible place, go to Nicaragua. I went to Hawaii and then a week later I was in Nicaragua and I went, holy smokes, this is incredible. Okay. So a lot of stuff had to happen for me to be able to book that ticket. There's a lot of information I need to learn because I was fairly illiterate in the conversation of politics in Central America. Okay. So I had to go do a lot of research, right? It wasn't me providing an email in order to do that. It was me just finding out a couple different things. So I'm a huge fan of process pages, huge fan of process pages on websites. We call the path of least resistance, which is what is that 3 to 5 step process that's going to take somebody minutes to understand that's going to get us where they need to go. Inside of that, you can break down that process into all these kinds of different pages and things like that. So what you're trying to do, Bruce, and it's a classic funnel, but I think it's even more than that. It's some sort of information web, right? Where you are just letting people, once they make a click, limit the number of decisions they have to make again. That's a huge point of emphasis for us. If someone is more than 2 clicks away from becoming your client, there's like a 40% drop off after every single time they have to click. So that will you go on another date with me button, that needs to be the goal. Okay, the buy now is just a lag measure. Okay, sales are something that just happened because a whole bunch of other stuff went really, really well. So in a fully digital world, the only thing I track is like how many discovery calls I get. And then at the end of the month, my operations manager tells me how much money we made. So that's very much the same way. People get so hooked on conversions, conversions, conversions. That's all they end up tracking. They're tracking the buy now, the buy now. What they're missing is what is all of that stuff that's getting someone to go on another date with me? That's where you get focused on because you stack up enough dates. Goodness, that sounds like a pretty serious relationship.
So
That,
just a couple
Yeah.
KPIs then on that. What would your KPI, aside from a call that's a discovery call? That's an obvious one, right? But digitally, that's harder to get, right? Unless it's, do a demo now. I mean, that's a really common one that a lot of marketers use.
right.
What are,
Again,
what are the KPIs that we should be looking at?
I'm allergic to complexity, so I want to simplify everything here. Having something that functions kind of like what we call an orphan page on your website that's only navigable from one button. But you know that if they go to that page and view that information, that they're more likely to, book the experience. Just start tracking traffic to that page and put it as an independent event in your Metapixel, in your Google Tag Manager, in whatever tracking software you're using. Just understand what are the actions that people are taking that a high percentage of them are going to end up becoming a client of ours. That's as simple as it is. And so I think we've gone pretty hard with the like the free ebook or like the download the seller's, the first time seller's guide. That's been done so many times. And again, exchanging information with someone is actually a big commitment to a lot of people. It's a huge commitment to a lot of people because they're aware that that information could get compromised. It could get all kinds of stuff. So something as simple as tracking traffic to a very, very specific page that's being gate kept somehow, that's a really easy KPI for us to track that doesn't take a bunch of advanced automation and all these kinds of courses.
Even though you
I,
don't know who hit that page, you just know how many hits that page got.
yeah, but you're also able to, through all of the different retargeting and things like that, be able to understand you know, how we can get that stuff out to them. So I do like gatekeeping stuff, but I mean, I think Hormozy wrote a book called $100 Million Offers. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal book on creating irresistible offers that I think just did an insane job with that book. That one and Donald Miller's Building a Story Brand. Those two books, like if there was someone who's, in their early 20s, like, hey, I'm starting a business, I would hand them those two books. That's it. And say, just do everything in these two books, and you'd be shocked at what you're able to accomplish. I've seen people who literally like they do a podcast and not super tech savvy, so they opened up their an iPhone, and all it had was the phone number that was the podcast phone number, and they kept it on their desk. And every time that phone rang, they put a check mark on a piece of paper, knowing that it came from the podcast. Like we don't have to overcomplicate conversion tracking. It can literally be that simple. And the number of phone calls you get divided by the number of clients. There you go. Like, let's stop overcomplicating this stuff with these massive amounts of data that we then have to weed through with AI. That it can be that simple for the tour operator, for the experience operator. I'm basic, guys. I don't know how to tell you this.
You are just a simple
I am
guy,
just
but
so simple,
why
man.
do you have eight guitars?
I don't. I have about 12. Yeah. You can't
Christian,
even.
you want to
I
wrap this
agree.
one up?
Well,
We're pretty much out
I
of time.
yeah, I agree with all of that, except, and I love the psychology piece of it. I think we probably read a lot of the same books, but I think a lot of that's just, is going to get bypassed now, which is the problem. Because I think the AI takes the human psychology out of it because all of our messages that we've spent so long creating, as simple as they are just actually bypassed because the AI goes right through that. So we sit there and we do these fancy pricing strategies and we do all these cool messaging and make a great ad and a great meme and the AI is just looking at that stuff so they could just get me the facts. Because if I was looking for a marketing agency, for example, today I would start with Gemini deep research and I'd say find me 20 companies that do tour operator marketing, create me a one pager for each one, rank them on these, or actually you find the metrics I should rank them on, and then just give me a one pager at the end and rank them. And the lazy person will then take that 20 and they'll just take the top three. So there's 17 of them plus the other 50,000 that didn't make it onto that Gemini
50,000 is a
page.
light number. It's probably 10 times
It
that.
probably is, yeah.
Yeah.
And just not getting a look. I'm just going to go to that top three because I've compressed that data and now I've got three. And none of those marketing messages that these other guys did got through. Yes, some of them because they'll have put some cool data which ends up in this report that Gemini created. But Gemini is bypassing all of the fluff, or it's trying to.
Oh, I agree. And then once we start working with them, the human experience kicks in.
Yeah,
And that
absolutely.
and that's where again you have to have the positioning and you have to have the outreach to it. So I don't disagree with you, Christian. I just don't think that a lot of businesses that are needing help right now are in that situation. And that's what's so interesting about this. I mean, this goes back to literally the first question you asked me, Bruce, is why does digital marketing suck? It's because of the conversation that Christian and I are having right now, is just the pace that it's moving at is just insane. But what I'm shocked at, Christian, and I don't know if you experienced this where you're at, is how many people still, like my wife is introducing Chat GPT to people still. And we use it every single day. We use it for travel planning. We use it for renovating our house and making decisions on this kind of stuff. And there's still people that have never downloaded and put ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok, whatever, on their phone. And
It's wild, isn't it?
that's
It's
what
wild.
still kind of blows my
Oh,
mind, right?
majority of people. Come on. At least, I mean, even in our country, right? Uh, I'm sure the great majority of people are not using ChatGPT or similar at this
Which is
point.
why I'm really glad we're having these conversations because I'm with you, Christian. Like, but I think funny enough, we're not in the minority within our own circles, but
Right.
we're in the minority within the general population, which is why I still keep being the one who keeps pulling on the reins. I've had this conversation with Bruce a number of times. I'm like, I love AI. However, I still think there's a whole bunch of just basic business foundation stuff that we've got companies that haven't figured out right, that they're still trying to 1099 people that should be W-2s, and they're, right here at the cusp of getting taken advantage of because they didn't have their HR policies in like it's just some of that stuff to where that level of business acumen is still so low for a lot of these people that are starting businesses because they got into roofing because they were good at putting shingles on a roof, not good at running a business. Or they got into tour operating because they love being on the water, but they don't have the business acumen. And yeah, in my head, I go, shoot, let AI do a bunch of the work for you. But they're still just not, and this isn't an intelligence thing by any means. Some of the smartest people I've ever worked with are people that run escape room companies. Like literally top to bottom, smartest people I've ever met. However, the business foundation isn't able to withstand the intensity that AI is putting on their business. That's what I think is so fascinating about this conversation. Is like Weldwood Marketing is really trying to take care of that group of people so that we're just kind of introducing AI as it supplements the experience, not replaces it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's definitely a problem.
I welcome pushback on this, by the way.
No,
Like,
no,
I
the point I
really
took
do.
the point I took from that, you got all this stuff and it's constant pressure if you're watching to do all this stuff and more stuff and the next thing and the next thing over here, but you haven't taken care of the basics because yeah, the AI won't take care of your basic filing of your employee paperwork, etc.
I
Yeah,
really hope it does.
and when till it
I
does,
really hope it does
you
soon.
have to do that first. Yeah,
Yeah, quite a bit, quite a bit.
yeah.
Well, we're pretty much out of time. This was, as I said at the beginning, a very special guest. And yes, Jake, you lived up to the billing, so thank you for
Oh,
that.
shucks, Bruce.
Yeah. So what is your CTA? How can people find you if they want to talk to you further about what we've been talking about
You
today or anything
know,
else?
show up at my door, shake my hand, send me a pigeon, just all of the old stuff, as
That'll all
well.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just all that'll work. No, scheduling a discovery call with me, and one of the easiest things to do is go into weldwoodmarketing.com, but also jakezufelt.com. Believe it or not, again, I'm allergic to complexity. I have the same discovery call embedded on like 5 different websites because I need one single trackable place for people to go through. So scheduling a call with me, I love hopping on a call with people and just talking shop, as you guys can tell. And so, whether that is us making a long-term plan for coming up with a digital marketing strategy, or whether that's a conversation where I start chatting with people about book ideas. I mean, some of the best conversations I've had is people just getting on a call with me and us just dreaming up a plan for what their business or their professional aspirations are and how we can help them. We have an
Yep.
internal policy. We're never going to sell somebody something they don't need. And we don't know what that is until we get on a call. So it's 30 minutes on a Zoom call, and
Great.
that's how
And
we
they
love
can
it.
come through weldwoodmarketing.com, or for those that don't see your name because they're just listening, it's Jake Zufelt, Zufelt.com
Yes,
to
sir.
connect with you directly. And they'll have as much fun talking to you as we did with you today, for sure.
I appreciate it,
All
guys.
right. Well, and that is that for this session. And we appreciate you paying attention and
We
making it to the end if you did make it to the end. And if you didn't make it to the end, then you're not hearing this. So that's okay. Uh, so until next time, and we will see you, Christian, in Valencia, in Spain, maybe before, maybe after this show. And Jake, will see you in DC, right? I believe you're coming there.
absolutely.
And thanks everybody for listening. Appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, guys.